I'd like to start off tonight's program by showcasing our magnets, and actually my wife Melissa, she designed these. Let me get it close enough for you to be able to see it. It says the Bill Seng Podcast on there, and it's a very simple piece of art. You know, we're thinking about just giving them out as gifts and stuff to people who listen to the podcast, and just when we're out and about, just has some information, has our website on it. But something you might not realize about this magnet is, watch this. Watch very close. I hold it up right here. It is also a babe magnet. You saw it working right there. So look forward to getting that. That is some incentive to be able to carry a Bill Seng Podcast magnet. Is that also, if you happen to be a guy that's running short on luck, carry that around with you. Guaranteed 100% of the time to win you the girl of your dreams. So this is the Bill Seng Podcast. My name is Bill Seng. I am here with my wife Melissa, and we're going to impart some wisdom on you tonight. So be looking forward to that. So one of the things we were talking about before the episode started up here, Melissa, was, man, I don't even know if we're allowed to talk about this even. We were having just a very brief discussion. I don't even know how it started. We started talking about how we are very excited for the opportunity to vote for Donald Trump again in the next presidential election. Am I allowed to say, is that treason to say that? Am I going to have like the FBI? No, I'm sorry, Melissa, if that's the case, if the FBI come knocking on our door. I'm hoping I can say that. I mean, if it's Ron DeSantis, I'm willing to vote for him too, but let's be honest, what's the chance? I think that'd be great, but if Donald Trump runs again for the presidential election, what's the chance that anybody else is going to get the nomination, regardless of how popular they are? So I don't even know how that conversation got started.
I wasn't sure what it was we were talking about. I guess we were talking about so many things, but the last thing I could remember was Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's very weird how he just randomly comes up in conversations anymore. And I think that probably has a lot to do with just the state of the economy, gas prices, the whole shebang. And on top of that, I think that what it was is I happened to mention the election day is on Tuesday. So Tuesday, the 8th of November, we need to get out and vote. If you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, stay home. We don't want you voting. There's no point in voting whatsoever if you're a Democrat. Besides, who are you going to vote for anyway? I mean, seriously. I mean, their policies are horrible. Let's just face it. I mean, they're running on the platform. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. The platform of higher gas prices, killing babies, and higher taxes and higher food prices. So. And
I tried out the iVoter today, and it does work.
Oh yes.
I've there wasn't really a question that it would work, but it does.
Yeah. So you're able to find out about the candidates on iVoter Guide. Is that what it is?
Guide, yeah.
iVoterGuide.com or something. I don't know if the something part's on the back of it or not, but iVoterGuide.com. And if it doesn't come up, type in something after .com and maybe it will come up for you.
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
It works. So again, I'm here with my wife, Melissa, in case you're wondering who this lovely lady is with me tonight. I didn't just happen to pull her off the street or anything. She's looking way too nice for that to be the case. She happens to be my wife. I hope she has the ring on to prove it. She does. She's got her ring on today, so she's got the ring to prove. You can show it to him. I mean, there we go. Just so that we have proof there. I got my ring on too, so I don't know if you can see that right in front of her face. Oh so here we are tonight, and so the intention was not to talk about the elections, was not to talk about Trump. Actually, what we really want to talk about tonight is just relationships, growing your relationships. We have some resources for you. Melissa's been reading a book by a man named John Tesh as well. So we're going to be getting to all of that here. And Melissa, you wrote a book a number of years back. I'd like to start off with that. What is the name of the book that you wrote, and why did you write it?
The book that I wrote is Wisdom. It's right here. Wisdom for the Journey in Parenting. 50 Simple Tips for Christian Moms and Dads. And Bill did a nice jingle to help people remember. The title, if you ever want to look that up, it might still be online. But I was just looking at it today and reviewing some things that are helpful for moms to know and dads. And and also I was looking at a book to mark my page. titled Celebration of Marriage, which we wrote not that long ago.
Yeah, it's been, a year or two now?
Yeah, and that's just very helpful if you ever want to pick it up, because our culture doesn't celebrate marriage, at least in the right way. And so something that I thought was fascinating was I was reading Intelligence for Your Life by John Tesh, and in it he was talking to a lady that I believe she was 102, and so he asked her what wisdom she had to make it, for someone to make it to 102. And so he asked, what's the secret to a long life? She said, be kind and forgive people. And he said, do you have any special healthy diet and exercise routine? She said, I eat when I'm hungry, I walk, and I go to sleep when I get sleepy. And then he asked, you said you were married for 60 years. What's the secret to a great marriage? She said, marry a good one. So just, with Bill mentioning, our books on marriage and parenting, I just thought that was so fascinating that a big part of it is marrying a good person, a good mate. And I think I've done that, but a lot of, I guess it just shows the importance of marriage, and not only just marrying somebody, but marrying a good person that is going to help you. Who knows, if you want to live to be 102, you could do that. But not only that, but to enjoy your life, in that time.
Yeah, so what does it... First of all, I have to comment. I find it fascinating that she says to be kind and to forgive people. I find that to be very fascinating itself, that's what she gives as advice to people to live to her age. I think that forgiveness is oftentimes, kindness, I think that people could kind of put two and two together with that. But forgiveness, I think that's something that is very much lacking in our culture. But that's... Aside from the point, she said to marry a good one. What sort of qualities make up a good one?
Well, I always thought it was fascinating. I did a lot of reading in college, and I read like books that taught you how to, get things what you want in life, and a lot of people discourage that, but it helped me at least. And so something I read was to make a list of what you want to see in, the person that you want to marry. And so I made that list thinking this is never going to happen. And then one day Bill, comes into the picture. And I had to get to know him in order to realize that he fit all those qualities.
Oh my goodness.
But,
jeez.
Yeah. I think people should make a list of, and if you're a Christian, that should be at the top of your list. Not that people can't, change, but if that's kind of in your values, and it makes up, how you see marriage, how you see parenting, how you see, money, it kind of reflects, it's reflected in all those things. You might as well marry someone that's going to agree with you, so you don't have to fight pretty much on all those important issues.
I just thought Melissa was hot, and that was pretty much it for me. I'm the one that got her number and made the effort to contact her. And she didn't talk to me for like 3 months or something, and then she realized that she really liked me a lot, and came to me on Facebook begging that I go out with her.
I don't know that.
Okay, maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration. Yeah. In all seriousness, though, the way that Melissa and I met was actually at a mutual friend's place, and we say that it might as well have been church, because it was a place where people were gathering together for the purpose of honoring God, actually. So even though it wasn't church per se, there's a bunch of people I knew from seminary, more or less, and she happened to be invited along to this thing, and that's how we met each other, and how I waited and waited and waited for her to talk to me. So
yeah, and I think obviously a lot of people meet each other at bars or restaurants and other places, but I think a lot of times if you went more like, I don't know, it's easier to have depth, I think, in a relationship if, you meet the person, in the right kind of atmosphere. And, and then I think the relationship has a lot more depth to it.
So what do you mean by depth exactly, Melissa? Because I start off by saying that I just thought you were hot, and so I thought that we should, I should look into marrying you or something. What would that have been a shallow approach to take?
Well, I guess that's what you did. Just kidding. Well, I was telling our son Jaden a couple minutes before the podcast, before recording, that, if I would have told Bill that I wasn't a Christian, or I didn't seem interested, in him being a Christian or anything, like I would have had no chance, pretty much. Like, and so I think that's just where the depth comes, like, because then basically your life has meaning to it.
And by the way, just in case you're wondering, no, our children are not like at marriageable age or anything like that, but this is something that's not unusual for us to actually talk to them about, marrying the right person and so forth. And as parents, that's actually something we take very seriously. And to tell the truth, parents out there, I know that lots of you probably tell your children, even at young ages, man, probably at Jaden's and younger age. Jaden is about 9 years old. And I know that lots of parents tell their children, even around that age, that it's okay to date. And that, but don't look at it as though you plan on marrying this person. And I think that is, I don't think that's good advice. I think that that's terrible advice. I think that you treat everybody that you want to date as though they could potentially be the one. I mean, why wouldn't you, right? I mean, would you disagree with me on that?
That's why you don't date when you're like 9.
That's why you don't date when you're like 9 or younger.
Yeah.
Because one, that's so far down the road, and two, my goodness, enjoy your childhood. Enjoy not having to worry about those things. But parents, I think that's an important thing is that the beginning of your children's life with relationships, finding the right person and all that, it kind of all starts with you. And you need to make sure that you are planting good seeds, like Melissa said, about finding the right one and finding somebody with depth. Because at that age and even in your teenage years, it probably is strictly physical attraction. And that's probably not a wise way to go about finding the right person. But instead, what Melissa alluded to was faith and having the same belief system. And if you abandon those, then things can get really rocky. I've seen many relationships where either the wife goes to church, more times than not, it's the wife going to church and the man does not. And and sometimes the man will go to church and the wife will not. And I remember one time I spoke to a guy and I asked him, because his wife seemed very spiritual, and so I asked him, so where do you go to church? And he just kind of gave me this like nasty glare, and I was like, I just waited for a second. I was like, what did I just do? And then he said, my wife goes to church for us. I thought to myself, my wife goes to church for us. Is it okay for me to say that he's a loser?
I don't know that.
Maybe that's not the most Christian thing to say, but that's what came across my mind. I was like, man, what a loser. It's like you're relying on your wife to go to church for you. But bottom line is, you want to be equally yoked. You want to be with somebody that shares your belief system.
Yeah, and I think, like, we've had, together as a couple, we've had so many conversations that actually have meaning, and I think they're great. People might think we're losers for having, talking, about, important things. But we tell our kids, like, if someone's not a Christian, like, they're off the list. Like, you don't get to, marry them, because that's asking for, like, a life of trouble. And, I just think it's so good that, in John Tesh's book, the lady that he talked with said to marry a good one. And so it's like, wow, basically if you want to have a good life, you got to marry someone that's a, good person.
So as a Christian that's looking to meet somebody and to potentially get married to them, there are lots of people that call themselves Christians, right? So what qualities in a Christian should somebody be looking for if they want to marry them?
I don't know. What do you think?
What do I think? Oh, wow, I feel very important right now. Well, kind of what came to my mind is that you want to be able to see the fruit of the Spirit inside of their life, know that they're in a growing relationship with Jesus. You want to be able to see that they have a generous spirit, that they have an honest spirit, that they aren't like hiding things from you, because that's something that could become toxic very quickly. I think that you want to see that they have a similar direction in their life in many respects. I remember when Melissa and I just started, I don't even know if we were technically dating at the time, but when we started running together, I guess, when we started going on jogs and stuff together, we talked a lot. And no, I think that maybe we were dating, because I remember you saying something along the lines of, I think that I had mentioned about the possibility of not going into ministry or something like that. And you said that you really wanted me to pursue that. And I thought that was pretty cool. So, it showed that our minds were moving in the same direction with where our relationship should go, where our lives should go. And Melissa, having said that, you cared about what I was going to do for a living, correct? Is that something that is...
Right. Yeah, I did. And I think something that I realized when we would run together is, for one, that relationships are more important than our careers, because I realized I'm like, oh, I'm not really that interested in, being a doctor or, anything like that, meaning and purpose comes from our relationships. And I mean, a lot of people do both, but I guess as a female, I realized, I'd rather just do one of those things. And, but for Bill, I think, men get a lot of purpose and meaning in their work also. And so I think that's, important to realize that, men need to have that from their work.
And I think you really got to be in tune with each other in terms of developing a relationship, because even though I say that you want to be moving the same direction, you might both think that you're moving in the same direction and that you have the same direction and purpose in mind, but you've got to be really sensitive to each other's feelings. I know those are words that especially guys do not like, is the word feelings, because that implies vulnerability. But wives have got to be sensitive to their husbands. Husbands have to be sensitive to their wives. And I remember there was one time, I don't know if I should share this story or not. I don't know. But ultimately, Melissa, first of all, is a brilliant person, that she was valedictorian of her high school. She achieved very high grades in college. And right now she is staying home with our children. And she is taking care of the home. And she's doing a fantastic job. And it was something where I correct me if I'm wrong, but you are finding fulfillment in that right now, right?
Yeah.
Was that an easy decision for us to make?
I guess, I've read a lot that like successful people make decisions quickly, and I guess I've never been one to do things quickly, but when I think about when I thought about what I really wanted, I realized, hey, this is easy. I think fulfillment comes from just helping out at home. So, sometimes those decisions come quick.
But I think it also took a lot of soul searching too. And especially when we decided to go the route of homeschooling, as I know that every now and then we have you on, we talk about homeschooling, and I think that is part of the whole relational package is determining, okay, so we're getting married, and that means we're going to be together for the rest of our lives, and it's possible somewhere down the road we're going to have children, and either we can send our children to these schools, they're going to try to corrupt them, indoctrinate them, and turn them that red is blue and blue is red and up is down and down is up, and what's evil is good and what's good is evil. What's good is evil and what's evil is good. And you have that option to do that. You can send your children off to a school that's like that, but we decided that, we'd like to take a little more, have a little bit more involvement in our children's schooling, which do I play a role in that? Sort of. Does Melissa play a role in that? Big time. And what was it like making the decision, for us making the decision to homeschool our children?
I think, again, it's one of those things that, when you have your values and you know what your values are, it's a quick decision. So we talked to, a couple people that homeschooled, and they were great people, and their kids are successful. And so it was a pretty easy decision, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean it's easy, but it was an easy decision. So.
Yeah. And so what I'm trying to get across here through talking about all these topics, because what does that have to do with our relationship? Well, you'd be surprised an awful lot. I believe, at least, because it's showing sort of the holistic perspective that we're taking. Like, I think that one of the reasons why divorce rates are so high across the world, we pick on America so much in this review. Why are divorce rates so high in America? I don't know. Why are divorce rates so high in, I don't know, Great Britain, or France or whatever, but regardless of that, we ask, why are divorce rates so high? Why is it so likely for people to get divorced after getting married? Well, because they are not taking a holistic approach to their relationship and to their marriage. Children, they come along eventually, and that's going to affect both parents. And you got to determine, how are we going to take care of children once we have them? Which, again, goes back even before you even get married. Like, goes back into even when you're in your teens and starting to think about, because you do a lot of thinking when you're young. At least, I know I did, about the person that you want to be with and about how you want your family to develop. And, in part you're clueless, but at the same time, that I think that, again, it all starts with, you see somebody you want to go out with, and you start asking yourself those valuable questions of, okay, who is this person? What are their values? Is this the type of person that I'd want to be a mother to my future children? Is this the type of person I'd like to be the future father of my future children? And so forth. These are important questions to be able to ask. And if your answer is no to something as big as that, you might want to rethink your whole decision on that person, because if they cannot be somebody that's trusted with your children, then a fling with them probably isn't a good idea. It's probably not responsible, and it's only going to have bad results. It'll be a waste of time, and it'll be dishonoring to God.
Yeah, and with homeschooling, I think it's been amazing to see how much, I learn with our boys. And, I don't know if I learn more or they learn more, but I know they retain a lot more than I do. So, I think I'm just blown away how much smarter I am.
Yes, and I'm
them as well.
And I was very happy the other day. I can't remember who it was, but we came across somebody, and we mentioned about homeschooling curriculum and books, and the topic was brought up about children's books and stuff, and they said, yeah, when I think maybe Rex and Nikki of all things, Rex and Nikki Fry, we actually did a podcast interviewing them about parenting, and it was very funny because we mentioned about homeschooling and the material and what we are learning, and I think it was Nikki that ended up saying something along the lines of, you learn so much from children's books, and yes, you learn a lot. We just assume that everybody as an adult knows everything that you were taught in school, but so much of it just goes by the wayside. You forget about it, and lots of things you aren't even taught. until you open up like these children's books and the homeschool curriculum and you read it and it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
it's absolutely incredible. We can learn.
Yeah, I think there's so much of like God and Christianity that's in our history, especially in America, that was like deleted from our history books that now I get to learn, about. And yeah, it just actually helps history to make sense, whereas it never ever made sense to me, like ever in my life. And now I'm like, oh, history makes sense, like when you hear the whole story and it has meaning. And so, yeah, I think it's so much easier to grab onto, remember remember what you're learning, because it actually has depth. And yeah, and then you can tie everything together. And so, like, I'm just amazed at what all we can accomplish. And we have like 2 more books of the Bible to finish reading, and then we got to do it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing. And now that I know how to teach reading, it's like I feel like I can read worse than I could read before. Like. So.
And I thought I came across this on Facebook the other day, and it was a quote by C.S. Lewis, and there's no way I'm going to get the quote right, but it said something along the lines of that raising children does not get in the way of important work. Raising children is the most important work. And when I think of the family structure with how God has designed it from the very beginning, and I see the responsibility that God has given parents. And by the way, I don't get it where we think that it's a hindrance for people to have children. What is more natural? What do you see more often in nature than birth of any species of creature, that is? I mean, to reproduce is one of the most incredible things that God has put in. Reproduction is one of the most incredible things God has placed inside of the world. And inside of humans, it's incredible because you see his nature reflected through it. And it's the most natural thing that there is. And yet we are a culture that thinks, nah, I'm not ready for that. Nah, I'm not that type of person. No, kids aren't for me. And just people, and sadly, and I think that some people that I have in mind who've said things like that after having children, I think that it's dawned on them that, man, I was dwelling in irresponsibility. I wanted to live a life that was irresponsible, and I wanted to do it for myself, for my own reasons. I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, Melissa, but I see that, I just really want to bring out how important it is for us to invest in our children in a way that's going to impact them for their whole lives. And I would love to see a culture building in America where we say, okay, you know what? Making money, making a living is important, but we can find a way to do that and still invest significantly in our children. I'm not talking financially, I'm talking relationally and spending time with them and helping them to have a godly worldview and perspective on life.
Yeah, and I think to go off of that, I am amazed just in, having known Bill for maybe 13.
We have been together 11, we've been married 11 years. And
so about 13 years, I think how much, my thoughts on different things have changed. So I think that's Bill's view of the podcast, to help people, as Christians, to help our thinking to line up with, the way the Bible teaches us. A lot of times we don't have a clue how to do that.
Well, that's a very nice plug right there for the podcast. I appreciate that very much. And that Melissa gets all the inside baseball too, and I wish I could communicate that effectively, that my views that I have and that I do express on this podcast, they aren't things I just pull out of thin air and throw at you just because they're my opinions. They've taken a lot of development inside of biblical thought. And so when I make fun of people like Joe Biden, it actually, believe it or not, me making fun of him, maybe that's not biblical. I don't know. But as far as my disagreements with his policies and such, they are absolutely rooted inside of the Bible. And I absolutely do think that, my goodness, do I have to make another controversial? The policies of the Democrat Party at large are evil, okay? I mean, if you are a Christian, I do not understand how on earth you can pull the lever for the D. I just don't get it outside of the fact that they sound like nice people, and so you're like, well, they're nice people, so I'm going to vote for them. No. Look into their actual policies, not just how they talk. Anyway, yes, there's a lot of rooting in Scripture and in biblical worldview. But Melissa, I'd like to end the podcast on that note, though. It's very nice, like I said, very nice plug for the podcast. And again, the things that we're talking about tonight, even those are rooted inside of biblical values. And most important thing to do, just as kind of a final lesson for tonight, is that when you read the Bible, stop trying to interpret the Bible. Overall, I mean, there are some parts that probably do need a little bit of interpretation. But when you're reading the Bible, don't ask yourself, I wonder what this means. Instead, read it and say, wow, this is what it says. And leave it at that and just believe what it says, because your life will be transformed if you do that. And you'll be more effective in finding a good-looking woman to be your wife one day. You will be better at being able to help other people out when it comes to instruction inside of the church. You will be able to walk the walk more effectively yourself in a more Christ-like manner for yourself. You'll grow closer to God. There's just all the things that'll be I'm not going to tell you you're going to get rich off of it or anything like that, but your relationship with God will be stronger, and who can ask for something better than that? But this is the Bill Seng Podcast. I'm Bill Seng. This is my wife, Melissa. We are wanting you to go on to Rumble and on to YouTube and subscribe to the podcast there. Also go on to Buzzsprout, go on to iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the different podcast platforms. Go to WilliamHSeng.com, pick yourself up a nice shirt there. I'm not wearing mine today because we had to match today. So I don't have my Bill Seng Podcast shirt on, but do that. And if you happen to see us on the street, be asking for the Bill Seng Podcast Babe Magnet. You see, it works 100% of the time. You saw it both times. It brought her in as soon as I picked it up. So make sure that if you see us, make sure to get one of these magnets from us. It has our website on it as well, as a reminder that that's where you can go for all of life's wisdom is WilliamHSeng.com. Yeah, you can open up the Bible, and that probably gives you a little bit more wisdom than what our website does. But it's a nice secondary source, though, just in case you're looking for one. So again, my name is Bill Seng. This is the Bill Seng Podcast, and this is my wife, Melissa, along with me tonight. Have a good day.